We're live.
Thank you. Will sergeants please start their recordings at this time?
PC recording has started.
Our recording started.
Backup is roll.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing on the Committee of Transportation. At this time, would all panelists please turn on their video for verification? Once again, we ask for all panelists to please turn on their video for verification. To minimize disruption, we ask that everyone please place electronic devices on silent or vibrate. If you wish to submit testimony, you may do so at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair Rodriguez, we are ready to begin.
Thank you, Sergeants. Thank you all for joining our virtual hearing today on accessibility of streets. First, I'm going to turn it over to our committee counsel to go over some procedure items. Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you. I'm Elliot Lynn, counsel to the Transportation Committee at the New York City Council. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that you will be on mute until you're called on to testify, at which point you will be unmuted by the host. Please listen for your name to be called. I will be periodically announcing who the next panelist will be. The first panelist will be from the Department of Transportation, Deputy Commissioner for Sidewalks and Inspection Management, Leon Hayward, Assistant Commissioner for Street Improvement Programs, Sean Quinn, and Assistant Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Community Affairs, Rebecca Zach. During the hearing, if council members would like to ask a question, please use the Zoom raise hand function and the chair or I will call on you in order. We'll be limiting council member questions to 5 minutes. Please also note that for ease of this virtual hearing, we will not be allowing a second round of questioning. Thank you. Before I turn the hearing back over to the chair, I would like to acknowledge that we have been joined by council members Diaz, Holden, Koo, and Rose. Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you, Elliot. First of all, I would like to hope that everyone have a great Thanksgiving. I know that this holiday was completely different from the previous one, but I know as New Yorkers, we did what we have to do to celebrate Thanksgiving, keeping the distance and limiting the numbers of family members that we got together with. So hopefully everyone were able to contribute to deal with this epidemic that still can bring a second wave to our city. And we as New Yorkers has to be ready to work together and fight against this epidemic and come out stronger than before. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the Committee on Transportation convenes remotely to hold a hearing on the following oversight topic: accessibility of streets. As we know, in the past month, our life has dramatically changed. The pandemic has changed the way in which we interact in our streets. Notably, the city is reimagining public space and how the public interact with this space, including innovative and creative ways to expand and use sidewalk and outside space has been increasingly seen. As these spaces are being reconstructed and utilized in different manners, it is important to remember to ensure that the accessibility of these streets is maintained for all New Yorkers and visitors, particularly for those New Yorkers or visitors that are living with physical challenges. In New York City, there are more than 920,000 New Yorkers who self-identify as individual with disability or individual with physical challenges. And it is estimated that there are about 6 million annual visitors to the city who also deal with physical challenges. To ensure that these individuals living with physical challenges have the same rights and ability to live as those without disabilities, the Mayor's Office for People with Disability was established in 1973. The office makes sure that all city initiatives, programs, and policies are adequately addressing the need of those individuals who contribute the same as those that they don't have to deal with physical challenges. Today, we are here ready to listen from DOT. Which goal is to provide for safe, efficient, and environmentally responsible movement of people and goods in New York City. Although DOT's main goal is to ensure safety for all, DOT also implements programs to help make New York City streets more accessible. DOT has taken specific measures to ensure that individuals with low vision, hearing, cognitive disabilities, or limited mobility are able to access our streets. All DOT's policies comply with applicable laws, of which include but not limited to the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Rehabilitation Act, to ensure compliance and inclusion of all individuals with physical challenges. DOT has committed to making all streets accessible by implementing pedestrians ramps to get on and off streets and sidewalks, ensure those who are blind or low vision are aware of the location of bike lanes throughout the city, create a campaign called the Cycle Eyes Campaign, which looks to increase awareness of vulnerable.
Chair Rodriguez, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we're having some technical issues in the background, so if we could just pause for 1 moment. Thank you.
It is my background or anybody else?
No, I think we're having some issues with the live streaming of the hearing.
Okay,
So just give us a minute to figure that out in the background. Thank you.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We're just waiting on the stream to be corrected. Just give us a couple moments.
Okay.
Chair Rodriguez, I'm going to remute you. As soon as we're ready to begin, I'll come back on the live. Chair Rodriguez. You can begin where you
Yes.
left.
Hello?
You can begin where you left off.
Okay. Give me 1 second, please. Give me 1 second.
Take your time.
Okay, ready. First one, sorry for the technical issues. And as I was saying, DOT has committed to making all the streets accessible by implementing pedestrian ramps to get end of street and sidewalks, ensure those who are blind or low vision are aware of the location of bike lanes throughout the city. Create a campaign called the Cycle Eyes campaign, which looks to increase awareness of vulnerable road users, especially low vision or blind pedestrians throughout the city. They've implemented accessibility measures within DOT's Pedestrian Plazas programs, which looks to create more public open space by utilizing underutilized street space and converting them into plazas where New Yorkers can sit, rest, socialize, and enjoy public life. The DOT ensure pedestrian signals have accessibility features to protect pedestrians who are blind or who have low vision by assisting them in crossing the street with short recorder messages and sounds, ensuring pedestrians intervals are accessible to all pedestrians, providing visual signals for pedestrians to walk and cars to go, implementing Safe Streets for seniors, a major pedestrian safety initiative for all the New Yorkers, and implementing City Bench, a program that installs benches throughout the city that make streets more comfortable for transit riders and pedestrians, especially for those who are older and disabled. During today's hearing, I would also like to hear more on how the DOT is working with the MTA to ensure that all train stations are accessible. Again, this is something that is important for all New Yorkers, and especially during this time where we hear the reality of the MTA dealing with financial crisis. It is important that we hear from DOT how is the agency continue conversation with the MTA. It is my goal to ensure that all the stations become accessible by 2030. We cannot forget about the almost 1 million New Yorkers and more than 5 million visitors with physical challenges who also deserve our support. At today's hearing, we hope to hear testimony from the MOP and DOT regarding how they are expanding and improving accessibility-related programs, initiatives, and policies throughout the city. We want to look at how the city is managing its streets and ensuring that they are both meeting safety criteria and ensuring accessibility. I will now have our moderator and committee counsel call on the administration to testify and to administer the oath.
Thank you. Before I do that, I would like to acknowledge that we've also been joined by council members Cohen, Levine, Deutsch, Menchaca, Cabrera, and Miller. I will now call on the following members of the administration to testify. Leon Hayward, Sean Quinn, and Rebecca Zach. I will now read the affirmation, and then I will call on each individual to confirm their response on the record. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Deputy Commissioner Hayward?
I do.
Assistant Commissioner Quinn?
I do.
Assistant Commissioner Zach?
I do.
Thank you. You may begin your testimony when you're ready.
And before they begin, I would like to express our thank you to the former commissioner. Probably this is like the first hearing that we don't have a former commissioner Polly Trumber with all. And I know that the whole team that who are here today, they will represent the agency well, but we will always miss our great DOT commissioner. And as we expressed to her, we hope the best luck for her on whatever plans she has for the future. She came with experience at the national level, and I know that as we will be missing at the city level, I hope that she will help us at some level if she will decide to go to DC. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Rodriguez and members of the Transportation Committee. I am Leon Hayward, Deputy Commissioner for Sidewalk and Inspection Management, or SIM, at the New York City Department of Transportation. And I am joined by Sean Quinn, Assistant Commissioner of Street Improvement Programs, and Rebecca Zach, Assistant Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Community Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of Commissioner Trottenberg on street accessibility. Under Mayor de Blasio's leadership, DOT and this administration are committed to creating a more accessible city for all New Yorkers. One of DOT's core focuses is maintaining and enhancing our pedestrian infrastructure free of defects and accessible to all. Last year, SIM performed over 22,500 inspections and reconstructed over 2.1 million square feet of defected sidewalks citywide. Now, turning to pedestrian ramps. Pedestrian ramps provide access on and off over 12,700 miles of sidewalks at approximately 185,000 street corners, mid-block crossings, and medians, and are essential for all pedestrians, people with disabilities, and older adults. Currently, DOT upgrades pedestrian ramps primarily by following the agency's resurfacing operation. In addition, pedestrian ramps are addressed when responding to 301 complaints, sidewalk improvement programs, and sidewalk repairs. But recently, you may have seen more of our in-house crews and DDC managed contractors around as we take on the task of assessing and upgrading every pedestrian ramp throughout the city. DOT has added a team of hundreds of permanent and seasonal employees, including planners, engineers, in-house construction crews, and inspectors, and in partnership with our sister agency, DDC, is awarding billions of dollars in contracts. In October of last year, DOT completed a citywide survey using innovative technology to collect data on pedestrian ramp elements. We contracted a technology company who surveyed a total of 217,678 ramps using high-definition street-level imagery and new software to extract each ramp's measurements. We also trained other agencies, developers, and utility companies on ADA requirements for the pedestrian ramps included in their projects. Finally, we have a dedicated outreach team for community engagement and are collecting and tracking data through a comprehensive asset management system. This long-term undertaking presents tremendous challenges at great scale. We must design and construct around numerous right-of-way infrastructure, including utility lines, catch basins, hydrants, street lights, trees, elevated and below ground transit structures, vaults under the sidewalks, distinctive material in landmark historic districts, and narrow sidewalks, among others. And to make it even more challenging, the city streetscape is ever changing with private developers, utilities, and other agencies working on our streets and sidewalks every day. This administration believes in providing safe and accessible means of travel for all New Yorkers, and is proud to be dedicating very robust resources to that goal under the mayor's leadership. Since July 2017, we have installed 1,185 missing ramps and upgraded 21,000 existing ramps. The public can see the most recent survey data, assessment, and construction progress at www.nycpedramps.info. Now, Assistant Commissioner Quinn will discuss our work to create new pedestrian enhancements, our engagement with the disability community for project design, use of the curb, and finally, how evolving street use in the face of COVID-19 impacts accessibility.
Thank you, Leon. Good afternoon. I am Sean Quinn, Assistant Commissioner for Street Improvement Programs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Pedestrian enhancements are a major focus for DOT and our Vision Zero efforts. Within the agency, the pedestrian unit works with other operational and planning units to implement new and expanded pedestrian facilities and to create new pedestrian connections. One recent example is at the complex intersection of Bronx Park East and Bronxdale Avenue, where we installed 12,500 square feet of sidewalk to create new pedestrian connections where there was only once a parking field. Another is at the historic intersection of York Street and Pearl Street in Brooklyn, where we installed new crossings with smooth, accessible pavers in the cobblestone street, as well as an expanded sidewalk to create an improved intersection layout and shorter, more direct crossings. In addition to these safety enhancements, our Plaza program has turned underused roadbeds into vibrant and accessible pedestrian spaces, with 65 locations currently open to the public. Making these upgrades and all of our projects accessible, safe, and successful cannot be done without input and guidance from accessibility experts. DOT works closely with the disability community and advocates to understand issues that people with disabilities face while navigating city streets. We host workshops, run online surveys, and speak directly to experts in the field to vet design ideas and test new treatments, materials, and technologies. To give an example, DOT's mobility management team co-organizes mobility clinics and evaluation events with community partners in which people with disabilities learn new travel skills while DOT tests and surveys participants about potential street treatments. In the face of the many challenges posed by COVID-19, DOT continues to partner with community organizations to engage the public through virtual and teleconference platforms. During the summer, we held an informational outreach session with high school students who are blind or have low vision. Held via Zoom, the virtual session enabled an engaging conversation with students who learned about the physical and design approaches DOT applies to enhance travel for people with vision disabilities. And to engage older adults with disabilities, DOT held a conference via phone to learn about the mobility challenges older adults are experiencing due to the pandemic and to share information about our accessibility work. DOT also produces the Mobility Management Resource Guide, which includes information about street improvement projects, transit services, and other DOT initiatives to enhance mobility and accessibility. And last week, DOT was pleased to welcome Edmund S. Sayadu to backfill our accessibility coordinator position. This critical advisor to the commissioner is the agency's representative for accessibility initiatives and leads ADA policy and compliance, internally and externally. Another core part of the agency's mission is to balance many different uses for our streets while maintaining access for all. Particularly on our busy commercial corridors, we manage curb use to facilitate loading and unloading of goods and passengers, access to transit, and temporary parking for shoppers and visitors, among other uses, all while maintaining emergency access. As an important part of this mission, our parking permit unit administers approximately 27,000 parking permits for people with disabilities. These permits provide motorists with a documented disability greater flexibility by allowing parking in metered zones free of charge, as well as use of no parking areas, authorized parking only areas, and truck loading areas. Now I will speak about DOT's work under Mayor de Blasio's leadership to transform our streets in the face of COVID-19 and to promote safe recreation, sustainable transportation, and support the city's beloved restaurant and retail industries. First, as Commissioner Trottenberg recently testified in detail, this administration has implemented over 83 miles of open streets citywide, citywide, nearly 50% of which are in zip codes with the highest rates of COVID in the city, mostly communities of color, and nearly 60% of which are in census tracts that are low to moderate income. When it comes to accessibility, DOT understands that a significant concern for some people with disabilities who rely on a vehicle is continued local access for parking and for loading and unloading passengers in taxis, for hire vehicles, accessoride, and private cars. This is one of several important reasons that our Open Street program maintains local access. But we are also keenly aware of the program's operational challenges, including the need to maintain appropriate setups, and are mindful of this issue as we plan for the program's future. Building on Open Streets program, DOT, in partnership with the Council on Restaurant Industry, established the Open Restaurants program. This has been one of our most far-reaching and successful COVID-related initiatives, and we think the largest such program in the world. To date, over 10,700 restaurants have applied to participate in the program, supporting an estimated 90,000 jobs for a diverse group of employees. New Yorkers have embraced the program in neighborhoods throughout the city, in Mott Haven in the Bronx, Washington Heights in Manhattan, Jackson Heights in Queens, Sunset Park in Brooklyn, Tompkinsville and Staten Island, and dozens more. And now through the Open Storefronts program, which the mayor announced on October 28th, retail establishments can use sidewalk space in front of their business as well, provided that they maintain a clear path of travel for pedestrians. In the face of COVID-19, we deployed and expanded the Open Restaurant program quickly by allowing restaurant self-certification and then relying on an army of city employees to inspect each location and require modifications where we discovered issues. While we understand there were challenges with this approach, we worked diligently with business owners to ensure ADA compliance, requiring street setups to either be flush with the curb or provide temporary ramps, and ensuring compliance with path of travel, table height, and clearance requirements. Moped has created helpful fact sheets on the accessibility requirements for both open restaurants and open storefronts, including detailed diagrams and instructions, which are available on their website. As the mayor announced and the council codified in Local Law 114 of 2020, sponsored by Councilmember Reynoso, work is underway to design the legal and operational structure for a permanent open restaurants program, with the goal of having it in place before the end of next year. Now, as we turn to making the popular program, which was created under an emergency mayoral executive order, to a permanent part of our city, we look forward to discussing with the council the longer-term operational, fiscal, and legal issues to be resolved. And it will be important to ensure that setups and guidelines under the permanent program meet ADA standards while maintaining appropriate clear paths for all pedestrians. Finally, in developing a permanent program, we must remember that DOT's core mission remains moving people and goods through the city safely, efficiently, and in an environmentally sustainable manner that is accessible to all. Therefore, the future program must also prioritize bike lanes, bus lanes, pedestrian space, loading, unloading, as well as parking for people with disabilities, among other competing uses, while leaving room for future innovation. In conclusion, as use of the city streets continues to evolve, DOT is committed to creating a more accessible city for all. In the midst of these challenging times, we thank the Council for your ongoing partnership and look forward to continuing this critical work. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we now welcome any questions.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and then I know that my colleagues also they have the question. Since after the pandemic, we've been able to work with the Open Street Restaurant program, something that we share the concept, but also I will assume that you guys working every day thinking about challenges that come with a program. We should continue with those programs, but we need to address things that are related to improvement. How does DOT work with the business to ensure that sidewalking streets around those establishments are participating remain accessible to pedestrians, especially for people living with physical challenges?
So our inspectors, they go out, and while they are inspecting the businesses and the restaurants, they talk with the managers and owners, and we provide them with advice on how to make sure that their facility, as well as the rest of the sidewalk, is accessible. We answer all their questions, and we do our best to provide them with guidelines so that they can adhere to those requirements.
Do you see any challenges in the near future that can be, where we can get some pushback from some business owner when it comes to responsibility that they had to make those seating area accessible? Or do you see a level, can you describe a general level of cooperation from our local business community, especially the restaurant owners?
Yeah, we do have a general understanding of compliance when we go out. We have not had a lot of resistance, and people have been very eager to have guidance from us when we've gone out, and they wanted to get it right. And even if they call us and ask us to come back a second or third time, we've been able to do that. So the important part is that they reach out to us, and we do get the impression that they want to adhere to the guidelines. They want to be doing all the right things, and they work toward doing that.
Great, thanks. And how can you describe our streets right now when it comes to areas where we have intersections where we have not been able to put some pedestrian island, all the devices that force the drivers to slow down, but instead we still have many intersections where drivers are turning in more than 20 or 25 miles per hour. Do you have a team of people? Are you doing assessment or challenges that we have in some intersections where it's still drivers, they are turning in high speed limit?
So we continue to roll out our left turn traffic calming program throughout the city. We do many intersections a year. We tackle where we've seen specifically crashes related to turning vehicles. So we continue to target those intersections with calming engineering, and even within the past year, as we announced in our Green Wave plan, we've modified some of our designs for bike lane intersection to also ensure that vehicles are turning slowly. We'll continue to roll out that program over the coming years. We do, as you know, see the turning vehicles in the intersection as critical to address Vision Zero, and we continue to do that.
When you look at other cities in our country, and I'm not just looking at, I'm not comparing with other places in Europe, but yes, here in our country, which other city do you feel that can you compare that they are doing this better thing than what we're doing here? Or in which area do you think that the city, our city of New York, can say we are a role model? And where do you still see area that we have to improve to be the city with the best, the most friendly one for individuals with physical challenges?
Thank you for that question. I know here in New York, we are at the forefront of a lot of different initiatives, from one of the largest open streets programs, from the installation of large numbers of protected bike lanes, the work we do with our technology and signal infrastructure for accessibility, the disability community. So we're always looking at other cities and ways that we can improve on how we operate, but we do feel that we have sort of a head start, and we're doing a lot of great work when it comes to changing the city and turning it into a place for all street users.
Do you feel comfortable to say that after we pass the law that mandate DOT to use the Vision Zero designing program so that we follow all the design are aligned with our goal of Vision Zero, that we are making progress in that area? Or you feel that because of the COVID-19, there have been some, a slowdown on that law that we work together, to be sure that any work to be done or any intersection, redesign intersection, will be follow our Vision Zero goal?
So just to clarify, are you speaking of the checklist?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so even though we did have a slow start to this, our project season because of challenges around COVID-19, in the summer, we were able to pick back up on our implementation of projects throughout the city. We always try to ensure that all of our projects have the most and best number of elements to provide safety for the all street users. We have been updating the checklists online as per the law, where you can refer back to each project to see how we did. Every project that requires a checklist will have that checklist listed along with the project, and you can anyone can reference to see how we're doing with including all of the safety elements in our projects. Okay.
And my last question in this round, and then we're going to be calling our colleague who also has a question, is about our sidewalks. And as you know, we've been having conversation. I have a bill that we're drafting that I hope also to work together with you guys that will make DOT the leading agency to address anything related to sidewalk. And our goal is something similar to what's happening in Vision Zero. Like right now, everyone know that if we had to coordinate anything on Vision Zero is our DOT, as in this case, Commissioner Polly Tromber as the leading one, coordinated with the NYPD, with TLC, and or any agency that play any role related to Vision Zero. When it comes to sidewalk, there's some red tapes that we have in the middle because a lot involve consumer affair. If there's a small business that get involved, a lot of other thing is really involved the Department of Building. So my experience in this year is not the lack of goodwill from you guys and other, but it's about we as a city has not established which is the leading agency that should work, coordinate with the other one. And I'm not going to be continue repeating. I have many sample of cases, San Nicolas Avenue, 180, and other places here that, there's a limited space for pedestrians to walk, but it's not that the DOT would not like to, be sure that we address the problem there, but it's about a lot of things involve Department of Building, other things involve consumer affairs. How do you feel for DOT to be the agency that should be leading the coordination of anything related to make sidewalk accessible to everyone, especially to individuals with physical challenges?
So I know that I hear what you're saying with the variety of different agencies that are involved in issues related to the sidewalk. So we're definitely interested in hearing more on this bill and have those conversations going forward.
Okay, thank you. Now let's move to the colleagues that they have questions. Elio, I'm going to put it back to you So, or the team who is controlling the order of the colleague who is have raised a hand to ask questions.
Thank you, Chair. We will now call on council members in the order that they have used the Zoom raise hand function. Council members, please keep your questions to 5 minutes. The Sergeant at Arms will keep a timer and we'll let you know when your time is up. We'll start first with Councilmember Rose, who will be followed by Councilmember Cohen. Councilmember Rose.
Time starts now.
You,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Thank you, Chair. And Deputy Commissioner, the Safe Streets for Seniors program is a pedestrian safety initiative for older New Yorkers in which DOT evaluates pedestrian conditions in targeted senior pedestrian focus areas, and it makes safety improvements. Could you tell me how many senior pedestrian focus areas are on Staten Island and where they're located? And what criteria was used to evaluate pedestrian safety and accessibility? And what specific mitigation measures have been implemented as a result of this program? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm actually going to pass that on to Sean. He has more information on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. And I don't have the exact number of locations, senior pedestrian focus areas on Staten Island. I can absolutely get that back to you. I know these areas have been determined, and they are in all 5 boroughs. They have been determined by looking at our senior safety, injury, and fatality data, as well as senior population, to focus our attention and efforts on street safety projects in those areas. The typical project, I'm just looking to see if I have the answer here. Okay. The typical projects are range from changing signal timing to allow for a longer crossing time for seniors who may have may require a little bit longer to cross the street. And then a lot of the other things that you've seen DOT do across the city: pedestrian refuge islands. So seniors can, people who need a longer time, they can wait in the middle of the street while they're crossing, shortened crossings, more direct crossings. So a lot of work with our signal timing and geometry changes to aid those seniors who are walking and getting around their neighborhoods.
Are these measures also targeted where senior centers are? I understand that there are some neighborhoods that are targeted, but like there are clearly identified senior centers where these measures should be applied. Is that also a part of the criteria in determining where these districts are, these areas are?
Yeah, and so just to go back to your earlier question, we have 2 areas within Staten Island, the New Dorp Highland Boulevard area and South Beach. You can find the maps of what is included in those areas on our website under pedestrians and safe streets for seniors. I do know that population is senior population is a factor in determining these areas, which would also indicate that there were senior centers within those zones. I don't know if we're looking specifically at seniors centers when determining where the zones are.
What type of volume would trigger a location being considered applicable for this initiative?
That, again, I also don't have the exact answer for that, but that's something that we can look into, and I can get you all the requirements for how neighborhoods are chosen for the program.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rose. Next, we will hear from Councilmember Cohen, who will be followed by Councilmember Holden. Councilmember Cohen.
Time starts now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Really, I think I have the sort of same question I had when Commissioner Trottenberg testified last time, who I wish her all the success in the world. I'm not sure that we're articulating, a sort of macro vision for what the streets are going to look like, and that we're using them in a way that makes the most sense for the most New Yorkers. Even the fact that we're responding to the COVID crisis, like at this stage of the game, to be so reactionary, really, I think it's disappointing. I think that the allocation of of valuable street resources, I'm just not sure that we're really articulating a vision for these resources in a way that works for us now, and it's certainly that's going to work for us in the future. And we're introducing more and more users to the street, electric scooters and all these various electric individual mobility devices. Like, things are changing rapidly, and I feel like the streets are, we have a finite number of streets, but how we use them, I just, again, I'm not convinced that we're articulating a vision for how this is, it's sustainable. Having all of these, the vast amount of street that's devoted to residential parking. I've talked to the commissioner about residential parking permits, and there seems to be a low level of enthusiasm for that. But I mean, that's a lot of space that's allocated to parking cars, many of which may not even be registered to people who live in the city. Could you talk a little bit about the agency's just long-term vision and how you think that we could better allocate limited street resources?
So I think there's a couple of different answers to that question. Namely, as it comes to our open streets and open restaurants programs and our open street restaurant programs, we did learn a lot of how to design the city streets. I think we were able to, by launching those programs, help other people in the city re-envision how New York City streets can be used. We definitely learned a lot of lessons with that program. But the program's also built off of a lot of work that the agency already did. So we're going to take the work that we've been doing, the work that we did over the summer and fall, the lessons that we've learned, and develop longer term future programs out of this, and take all the lessons that we learned, especially when it comes to how we can make sure the streets accommodate people with disabilities into account as we develop those programs. I think there has been some visions laid out in our Green Wave plan, as well as the Better Buses plan, to show how and where we intend on transforming some of those streets. And now we hope to layer in these pedestrian elements and these pedestrian streets into those planning processes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we will hear from Councilmember Holden, who will be followed by Councilmember Miller. Councilmember Holden.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Chair, for this hearing. I think it's very important to talk about just basic needs of some communities that are not getting the improvements that we heard today. For instance, I have 3 years waited for speed bumps on 76th Street in Woodhaven. I've also had a crosswalk, many crosswalks in my community that are really, anyone walking would take their lives in their hands because of, for instance, Jamaica Avenue and Woodhaven Boulevard, which is not really my district. It's a little out of my district, but it's like walking on the moon. And I've approached DOT many times about fixing that. Not touched. We even see heavily traveled streets, not only in my district, but throughout the city, that are rippled. You have this ripple on the roadbed. that it's not fixed. Walking, normal walking, people with disabilities can't walk on those kind of ripples, and that's not fixed. And then we see parking around precincts where police vehicles, their own personal vehicles, parked on the sidewalk, blocking crosswalks, doing everything, parking everywhere. And how can we even fix that? How can we prevent them from doing that other than just enforcement? Can we do improvements on these corners, especially around precincts, that will stop them from parking, stop the police? And they're not going to enforce their own laws. Obviously, we're not seeing the enforcement around precincts, especially some of mine, where the police vehicles are parked everywhere, blocking crosswalks. So forget about, I think we have to get back to sometimes the basics of clearing our crosswalks, prevent people from parking on the sidewalks. But I'd like to address these things. And I'm not getting from Queens DOT, I'm not getting the answers. I'm getting a very, very slow response. And I don't want to hear the COVID. This predates the COVID. I'm hearing that. I heard at this hearing that the COVID slowed things up. Yeah, we understand that. But we weren't getting service before the COVID, because now it's 3 years. So I just like the DOT officials here try to address some of these. What is the procedure on damaged crosswalks? I'm talking about the roadbed. The ripple that I mentioned, what is the procedure on that? Does that get like a sort of put on the back burner here?
Are you speaking? I think the word. Hi, council member. Thanks for all your. I'm not sure if you're done. I can wait till you're done.
No, I have more, but go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Rebecca, I was going to jump in on the roadbed issue.
Sure.
So as you know, the mayor and the commissioner have increased our ability to resurface our roadways tremendously. Over the past couple of years, we've been having 1,300 and 1,100 miles resurfaced over the years. And in deciding where we go to resurface and to fixing those problems that you talked about, we do go to the community, we do go to elected officials, and we do use that to set our schedule in every community board. So in some cases, it's a full.
1 second, can I just, because I'm on the clock here. On that kind of thing, I asked for just the milling, and they don't really do this, or if I can have the crosswalk milled. Because I wait years then to have the whole street milled, let's say the whole block. And I only need the crosswalk really, because it's dangerous. And do you have a program that when you see dangerous crosswalks, because you can't maneuver them, you can't walk over them even, much less a person with disabilities, or the ripples that we're not seeing that. Do you have that program? I mean, maybe Rebecca Zach can answer that. Do you have that?
I'm not.
We have a maintenance program that addresses a number of different conditions on the roadway. Specifically, I'm familiar with what you're talking about, and usually they're at roadways by bus stops.
Yeah.
We do take those requests, and in the off season, we have had our maintenance crews go out and address those bus locations that have those ripple effects that you talk about. So we do it, and I guess we just need to make sure we get the locations that you're talking about, and we will do our best to try to address those.
Thank you. I just have one other question, if I may, Chair. I just had a pedestrian, a senior, that was killed crossing the street. And this was an hour that just before dawn, where it's hard to see. I understand that. They're still investigating it. Could you tell me DOT's role in an investigation? Do you guys work hand in hand with the police and talk about what improvements could be made, or what happened in that particular case where a pedestrian was killed or struck by a motor vehicle? Do you work with the NYPD after that happens?
The NYPD is the primary investigator of the incident, and however, we do send a street team out to these locations to assess the safety elements at the location to see if there's anything we can do immediately to improve the condition or over time. So we'll make an initial set of recommendations. The street team will make an initial set of recommendations for anything they find immediately. And then that location, if it is found to need more work, will go into our street improvement program list, and will be informed by some of the information that NYPD eventually determines to be part of the crash.
I would like to be involved in that, at least get the results of the investigations of your working with NYPD. And I'd like, what DOT has in mind, because I'm a little, I'm very concerned about right now, people, like Commissioner Trottenberg said in the previous hearing, during the COVID, we're seeing many more people speeding. I'm not saying the speeding was a result of this current accident that I had in my district, but I'm concerned about throughout the city that we see people speeding. And I'm not sure we're getting the enforcement either. But I think we need to talk about this as to what we can do. I'm having a difficult time getting speeding addressed in my district throughout the area. And I think most people are concerned about this. So we need, we need to come up with solutions. But anyway, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Next, we will hear from Council Member Miller. Council Member Miller.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair. It is good to see you and my colleagues. I don't even know where to begin. I really don't. And I will begin as I've begun for the last 7 years when we have had hearings which involve the agency, the DOT, and that is whether or not the lack of diversity is a manifestation of the lack of equity in services and how they get delivered throughout communities throughout the city of New York. I can agree wholeheartedly, concur wholeheartedly with my colleague Holder that these are things that predate COVID, but I would also submit that what we have seen and we have put forth viable plans, whether it was busways, programs and projects to combat the illegal, unaccessible, and unsafe commuter vans, and many more. And nothing has been done over the past 7 years. What happens when we talk about Vision Zero here in Southeast Queens and other communities of color throughout the city, we don't get the investment in capital improvement, which includes mediums and other capital investment to keep people safe. We get punitive speed cameras and red light cameras, which is fine, but we want more. We also want to be engaged as a community. Glad to see you, Deputy Commissioner Haywood. That's a face that I have not seen for the past 7 years. I'm very interested to hear about sidewalks and plans. Obviously, homeowners are deeply impacted. But I want to talk about accessibility and how that's important. So we have a DOT project that is occurring right now here on Merrick Boulevard in Southeast Queens. It is not a project that was engaged, that the community was engaged in any public discourse or any other form of engagement. They were at the community board meeting last week and they were made well aware that they were being disingenuous at best in saying that. We went to them and we asked them to be able to mitigate a problem that the community here knew about forever. During rush hour and certain times of the day, it will take you 20 minutes to go 3 blocks. And there was a study of which that was done by DOT, proposed by the Jamaica Now, which was finished sometime in April or May, has yet to be released. I think that it's going to demonstrate what we already know, that there are areas of congestion, that we have put forth some solutions and nothing has happened. So I look forward to seeing that report sooner than later. My office went to DOT with this problem of congestion and asked for a meeting to discuss how do we mitigate it. Part of that was a suggestion of a no standing depending on obviously the time of day. The traffic flow, everyone goes to the subway in the morning, everyone comes back in the afternoon. The buses will take 20 minutes to go 3 miles and then 20 minutes to go 3 blocks. Everyone knows what this is. DOT came out, met with my office, the precinct, and made an announcement that they had already begun on a bus lane that we were supposed to be touring to discuss. They also painted a bus lane everywhere along this 2-mile corridor, except for the locations where the problem began. I have some pictures here where the side from 107 and Merrick, 108 and Merrick, and then other places, the common allergy amongst these hot spots, they are body shops. And on these body shops, on this main thoroughway, they park in the bus stop, they park on the street. We have at least over 100 cars that are parked on the street that never move, belonging to these body shops. We have, at this location, we have 3 senior buildings, and they cannot walk on the sidewalk because they have cars parked on the sidewalk. Now, DOT was out there with us. The 103rd Precinct was out there with us, and we've been having this conversation for more than a year. None of it's been mitigated. Now, DOT has moved forward with a plan to put a bus lane, not on the curb, but taking away one of the driving lanes. Now we're down to 1 lane. And now when these cars double park and these things happen at these same locations, we're worse off than we were to begin with. That was no community engagement, but it was indicative of DOT what they do. They decide that they want to implement a certain program and they're going to fit a square peg into a round hole. And that's just not working. There has been no engagement, and it is just consistent what you're doing. Now, this is the latest project, the busway that we were greatly anticipating on Archer Avenue, what we've been working with for nearly 2 decades. When there was administrative allocated money, DOT decided they wanted to do Jamaica Avenue instead. And when there was community pushback and merchants pushback, and there were no allies to go along with that, that project just went away. Even though Archer Avenue is the busiest bus corridor in America. Nearly 250,000 people take the trains and buses at those locations daily, and we can't get anything to address that. So how do we move forward here? How do we move forward with, you talk about, we're talking engaging elected and engaging communities. I would submit that that is disingenuous at best. It has not happened. The programs that has happened is what DOT has felt necessary on their own. But at the end of the day, we still have a busy, congested commercial and bus corridor of Jamaica Avenue, Archer Avenue. We still have illegal and inaccessible commuter vans that block buses and all traffic on Archer Avenue. These are problems that we've been dealing with for the last 6 years. We've written legislation, no enforcement. We were supposed to do hearings. We didn't do the hearing out there. Commissioner Trottenberg came out there 3 or 4 times. In fact, nearly got ran over by a commuter van who jumped the curb. Nothing has happened. So this all sounds good, but the practical application of it and the impact on mitigating congestion and creating accessibility. When I have seniors who cannot walk out of their building, nearly 300 seniors, and for 2 blocks, cars are parked on the sidewalk. Derelict cars are parked on the street, and there's no accessibility. Now, the plan was put a bus lane there on the curb to move those cars to get them off the curb. Instead, what do? And then the kicker of all kickers is DOT announcers last week that we put down the bus lane. They also said that they were going to talk with us about times. And now their signs are going up suggesting cameras, fines, but no times. And so now it's 24/7 bus lane, which makes absolutely no sense. So they did not talk to us about that. But going back to the problem, which we initiated with them, which was these 7 or 8 body shops that exist and block the streets and block the sidewalks. Everywhere along these 2-mile stretch has a bus lane except for in front of the body shops, because they want to have a conversation with the owners to figure out how to help them move along. So the rest of the world is being inconvenienced with this bus lane, but the people who caused the problem, that necessitated the need for a bus lane, they don't have it. In fact, I was told last week that they're no longer painting lines and that they're going to paint lines in front of the body shops in the spring. So for the next six months, we're going to continue to be inconvenienced as a community on this main thoroughfare. And the people who have created this problem continue to operate just as business as usual. I hope that listen, and I heard all the praise that was being heaped. I just don't share those sentiments in theory, but in practical application, it never happened in this community. And as I drive throughout the city, there are communities of color that don't get the same investment, and there is absolutely no enforcement. I remember talking 4 years ago about Atlantic Avenue. There's a no standing that runs from the Brooklyn Bridge to Queens, and it's occupied all the time. That trip will take you an hour and a half leaving City Hall, and nobody does anything about it. So we're doing all these studies. I don't know what we're studying, but the people that's on the ground, the people that need to access these streets and sidewalks are not being impacted. And they're particularly not being impacted in the outer boroughs. They're particularly not being impacted in the communities of color. And we're not seeing the investment that we're seeing in other places in the city. We want to be safe. If Vision Zero is applicable, we want to be safe, but we want something other than speed cameras to keep us safe. We don't want punitive dollar investments that's going to keep us safe. We're now seeing speed cameras in the middle of side blocks on residential streets in Southeast Queens here now. No engagement on that. That is pretty ridiculous. So I think DOT needs to be a lot more transparent in their actions. And I know we're a little late in the game. We need to be a lot more diverse, so so that we have ideas that really reflect the needs and the values of these communities that we're serving.
Councilmember, I think that you brought a lot of specific things that is very important to follow up. Why don't we take this approach? I know that in the past you have brought to attention the need to walk there through that area. Besides what DOT can say, what I can say is that let's follow up and let's see how we can, put some effort together and do the work so we don't give up. But yes, bring DOT, put the team together so that we can do a walk in that area so that we can look at a specific thing that we should do to address the need of your community.
I appreciate that, but it has to be at the senior level, because over the last month, they meet every Wednesday with my office and nothing has happened. And again, they went to the community board. The community is totally upset. They have this 2 miles that they of a busiest thoroughfare in the community that they can't use. And the problem people, why would you put a bus lane and omit the people that caused the problem? Like, what's the justification for that? There
I
has
agree
to
with
be
you.
answers. We need answers, and the answers I'm not getting at the local level. So I'm talking to the deputy commissioners now to see who's accountable for,
Okay.
what was the plan?
So I agree with you. First of all, what I put in the table is that, and we were here now from DOT. So, but before we hear from them, what they can say, let's see how you and I can follow on any way that we can be helpful to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone from DOT would like to address?
I will say one thing. I'm not specific to the Merrick Boulevard bus lane. I know you've been working with our Queens office on those conversations, and I think Chair Rodriguez has some advice on how we can move forward on that. Generally, as our commissioner testified at the preliminary budget hearing a little while ago, we have, in relation to our projects, our citywide safety projects, we analyzed the number of those projects implemented in New York City's highest poverty and highest non-white neighborhoods based on census tract demographics. And we found that these neighborhoods not only received a proportional share of projects, but also realized some of the largest drops in pedestrian fatalities. So while we certainly do have more work to do in terms of reaching all corners of the city, our data-driven approach so far has taken us to the neighborhoods all over the city, and we're really working to address bringing down our fatalities and injuries everywhere we possibly can.
Do you want to share that data? Can you share that data?
Yeah, I believe it's in our, yep, sure.
I'd like to see it. I would suspect they're probably in poor gentrified communities that are getting these investments. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them in Southeast Queens. I have not seen them at all. I'd love to see it.
Okay.
Okay. Share the data, and then we will follow with their plan. Okay. And I take in as something that you got from the DOT. We can work together to organize a walk with some member of your team and the council member Miller and myself will be there too, so that we can walk together and see what are the challenges.
Are we not doing the busway plan? Is that not happening? I see somebody waving their hand. That was the big announcement by the administration. Are we not doing the busway?
Can you oh, there you go.
So, hi, council member. In regards to Merrick, I know there was 5 blocks that you had concerns about. So that part has not been done, and you wanted further community engagement on that, which we have committed to. You also wanted Archer to be a busway, and
what does that mean?
I'm sorry?
What does that mean? That I wanted further community engagement, and we committed to that, because I've been told that won't be addressed until the spring, which means that we're going to continue to have that problem till next spring.
I think one of the challenges that we have right now is, the season ran out, the project started when they started, and that's my understanding is that you had very specific concerns for those areas, and my understanding is that you wanted that held for now so we could have more community engagement, which I believe is to start in the winter.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's misinformation. That is the problem area. We went to them and asked them to put a no standing, and they came up with the bus lane, but that is certainly misinformation. That would, no, absolutely not. Those people caused the problem. Those people are the reason why 300 seniors cannot even walk on the sidewalk out of the building because they're parking on the street. They're the reason why they can't cross the street to even get a bus, because they're parked in the lane and in the street. We want that done now. We don't want it done in the spring. Miscommunication.
Okay, let's follow Councilmember, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
The bus lane?
Are you talking about Archer or Merrick?
Archer.
Archer is I'm sorry, 1 second. You want to put we're currently trying to put together a project and we will be following up with you for potential next spring.
And
that is the same as it was. I know that's your desire there, and we're completely clear with that, and we are working on what that would look like.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd love for you to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, council member. Are there any other council members with questions for DOT? Chair, do you have any other questions for DOT?
Yeah, my question on which other city are doing things related to address challenges important to individual physical challenges that we can look at it right now. Are you looking at any other, and again, I'm proud of the work that we have been able to do together with DOT, with the speaker, with the colleague, and the fact that we hear from my colleague, a specific thing that has to be addressed on attention to be given at the same level in underserved communities and the whole city of New York is something that we've been addressing, and I hope again that the fact that we have area to still deal with and challenges, it doesn't take credit for a lot of accomplishment that we have been able to do together. So with that spirit, is there anything that you have seen in other cities that, as we have been to be proud as being a role model, that you can say other places in LA or other city, they are doing things that we should look at it to improve accessibility to our New Yorkers and visitors with physical challenges?
So we have spoken to both LA and Philly about things that they're doing there in regards to ped ramps. I think another piece that as I mentioned in our testimony, is that we have our new accessibility coordinator who started last week at DOT, and I feel that this is something that he'll be able to tackle beyond what we've already been doing and have those conversations not only internally with the city, but externally with other cities as well. I think his role here will be, greatly appreciated, along with the work that we've already been doing with our mobility management team, which I also mentioned in the testimony. So we have new people and people who have been in the agency for a while thinking about this question and having those conversations with other cities. And I think in our conversations with LA and Philly so far we found, and other cities we found, that our program is the most aggressive. We're way ahead of these cities, and we want to keep that up and hope that the new accessibility coordinator and the work that we're doing will help us keep this pace.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. If there are no other, Chair Rodriguez, I think Councilmember Holden would like to ask another question, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. Just one quick question. In a number of locations throughout my district, I've asked for raised crosswalks to be implemented or to be installed as a tool. I'm not seeing, I think they act, especially by a school. I have a very hazardous wide street with a curve, and you really can't see the crosswalk when cars and trucks are coming around the curve. So I asked for a raised crosswalk, which would act also as a speed bump. And I've seen that implemented very well in Puerto Rico and many European countries. I'm not seeing it in New York City. Have you installed any raised crosswalks? You do?
We do. And I can get the locations.
How do I get one?
It's pretty limiting in terms of, because of the corners and drainage and making sure that we can still have water and things drain at the corners. It's challenging, but we do have them. We don't have many because of that, but I can find out where they are.
Because of drainage, you could put a little pipe at the curb that would get the water through. I mean, there's no way to engineer that?
I don't know if we would, I'm not sure about our ability to install pipes at the curb or what that would mean for sanitation or whatever, but I'm just saying, yes, we do have them. And I'm not sure what the challenge is, or if you ever got a response about the specific location that you're asking about. If you were denied, we can talk about it, but if you never got a response, we can go from there.
Most of the time I'm denied, except when somebody requests a traffic light. They seem to have a lot of money for traffic lights, which I don't believe many work on residential streets because people speed up at the yellow. I would like traffic calming, and I'm not getting speed bumps, but I think this city does not implement crosswalks, raised crosswalks enough. I'm seeing that in European countries. I'm seeing it all over the United States even, and we are slow to do that. And drainage, come on, other cities have figured it out. I think what we have to do is think outside the box, but also implement raised crosswalks that are more visible in certain locations. Sometimes they're made out of brick. I've seen it in Puerto Rico, out of brick, beautiful crossing. And it doesn't have to be on a corner. All right, it could be mid-block as long as there's some traffic signal or not. But we need to start making our corners or our crossings safer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I feel that, as you are listening from all colleagues here, the message is to DOT, to you guys, that, the 51 council members should be the immediate ear that you should rely on when it comes to, things that we have to add for our communities. And again, as I can say that we're doing a good job. I feel like we can do much better if we are able to follow with specific things that we have in different parts of the community. And of course, I have many local things from the plaza, from other items where I have particular hit and run intersection that is happening because, the drivers, they're turning in driving very fast when they make a turn. I will follow you guys, but let's be sure that we continue listening to suggestion on how we can improve in each council member. So with that, thank you to the panel, and then we move to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now turn to public testimony. I'd like to remind everyone that unlike our typical council hearings, we'll be calling individuals one by one to testify. Each panelist will be given 2 minutes to speak. Please begin once the sergeant has started the timer. Council members who have questions for a particular panelist should use the raise hand function in Zoom, and I will call on you after the panelist has completed their testimony. For panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the sergeant at arms will give you the go-ahead to begin as soon as they have set the timer. Please wait until the sergeant announces that you may begin before delivering your testimony. I would like to first welcome Iman Remwawi to testify, and I apologize for the pronunciation of your name.
That's totally fine. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Iman Ramawi. Oh, sorry.
You may begin.
Okay, great. My name is Iman Ramawi. Thank you so much for including me. I work for New York Lawyers for the Public Interest and the Disability Justice Program. I am also a double amputee with lupus, and I use a walker. For almost 4 years, I have worked at New York Lawyers for the Public Interest as the Access-Ride coordinator and organizer to help people with disabilities who use New York City's paratransit service to obtain better service. Through this work and from my own personal experience, I have realized that paratransit isn't the only access issue for people with disabilities in the city. Accessible streets play an essential role in the lives of all New Yorkers in many ways, going from the grocery store to using a taxi or even getting to your jobs. And yet there is so much inaccessibility in our city. How can New York City be the best city in the world and exclude one of the most disenfranchised communities out there? I can't hide who I am, and I won't. If people don't want to associate with me, I'm not interested in associating with them. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work, especially when we are talking about access and the need to request accommodations from the city. Property owners are expected to clear snow and ice off the sidewalks to create a 4-foot wide path for pedestrians, including pedestrian walkways, curb cuts. Property owners and businesses must also keep sidewalks clean, as well as clear of objects that obstruct passage. Failure to comply with local laws governing snow and obstruction removal can lead to fines. Prompt snow and obstruction removal is especially critical for seniors and individuals with mobility impairments like me. Unfortunately, I have seen sidewalks obstructed by trash and snow more times than I can count in all 5 boroughs, including in the very busy areas like Grand Concourse in the Bronx or in downtown Brooklyn. I've had to climb over such barriers, which isn't easy for someone like me, or hope that a stranger could help me over. I've had to go into the street when I couldn't get past. And when I used a wheelchair, sometimes I'd have to go all the way back to the other side of the block just to cross at the corner. No one should have to do that. It is unacceptable. And how is that fair to me? Am I not an equal citizen under law? Why does that seem like the city? Why does it seem like the city puts the responsibility of watching out for those reporting and potentially arguing these property owners on everyday citizens rather than the officials and agencies who are paid to do it? Additionally, fallen trees or branches are a huge problem, especially in Queens. You can report trees and branches that have fallen on public property, but oftentimes it takes a while to get it removed. Pedestrian ramps and curb cuts are not up to par in any borough. It's gotten better, but it's not as what it should be. It's as if no one has asked the person with a physical disability if these pedestrian ramps actually work. A few ramps that I absolutely loathe are attached to public libraries. One is from the main library at 42nd and 6th, and the other is at Prospect Park. I have not been to them in years because I am afraid that I will fly off and go into the street. I know I'm not the only one because I've had the talks with several people who have mobility issues, and they have the same complaints. Relatively new concerns since the start of COVID are accessibility issues with outdoor dining. I have seen a number of outdoor dining setups that block entire sidewalks in Manhattan, and I've had to go into the street to avoid them. I'm able to do that because I use a walker and my balance is improving, but people who use wheelchairs have the worst time to get around those blockages. I've had other people tell me that they have to simply go back around the block and go at the corner because they can't get through, and that's exhausting. We really need to think about the negative impact blocking.
Yeah, summarize, and if
Sorry,
you take
I'm almost done.
You can send the testimony by, if you don't mind, please summarize.
That's fine. I'm almost done. We really need to think about the negative impact blocking sidewalks has on the disability community, but we aren't the only ones. What about people with strollers, luggage, or packages? The same ways that elevators work for everyone, so do accessible sidewalks. Again, thank you for sharing my testimony. It is vitally important for streets and sidewalks to be clear of obstruction, particularly for seniors and persons with disabilities, because we often have mobility devices that need the space to get through. Please contact me if you have any other questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do any council members have questions for this panelist? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to the next panelist. Next, we will have Kathleen Collins. Kathleen?
Time starts now.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Collins, and I am a quadruple amputee from birth. I'm also an attorney who's retired from I worked for the Port Authority for over 30 years. Right now, I'm speaking on behalf of Downstate New York ADAPT, where I am a co-coordinator. And Downstate New York ADAPT is a grassroots, non-hierarchical community of people with all types of disabilities, advocating for the civil rights of people with disabilities, including but not limited to the right to live in and fully participate in the larger community. Due to the time limitations here, today I'm just going to mention the areas that I will be submitting a written comments to the committee. I just want to highlight the 5. Right now, we have 5 areas that we're going to speak about in our proposed comments. We probably will add to that today. The 5 areas that we plan to address are curb ramps, also known as head ramps, I've heard today, the condition of sidewalks and roadways, physical obstacles encountered on the sidewalks and in the roadways, problems with traffic signals, including the fact that so many of the traffic signals are not accessible to our sisters and brothers who are hearing impaired, and finally, enforcement of traffic regulations. We ask that the committee create an advisory board consisting of New Yorkers with many different types of disabilities that could assist this committee and other city council committees in their work. So we do not continually have to bring lawsuits against the city. Further, finally, we ask that this committee continue to reach out to New Yorkers with disabilities to make New York a truly great and safe city for all New Yorkers and to our wonderful city. So please reach out to us, Downstate New York Adapt at also dnyadapt@gmail.com. Please reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this panelist? Okay, seeing none.
I just have a quick question. Will we be able to access this recording later? And if so, where? And then also with our comments, do we just send them to that link that we got in the email that says you just click on it and you send it to the Transportation Committee?
Yes, you can submit written testimony through that link, and we can follow up with you if you need any assistance with that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And it's 72 hours after this, so it's as of Wednesday will be the deadline?
Which item, sorry?
72 hours from the date from today is the deadline for written comments?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will hear from Jean Ryan.
Time starts now.
Hi, I'm Jean Ryan. I'm president of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. We represent people with all kinds of disabilities, and this is our 50th year, 50, and we intend to be around for at least 50 more years. I would like to address about 5 or 6 things, whatever I have time for, and then I will submit written testimony also. One problem is the accessible street crossings for blind people who live all over. They don't just live on certain streets where you have them now. They should be all over the city. Every single light should have safe street crossings for people who are blind. And most people who are blind become blind in later life. So they're not going to have a whole lot of travel skills for being blind. So that's why this is really important to a huge number of people in our community, all over the city. Curb cuts. We want curb cuts, pedestrian ramps at all corners and in good repair. We don't want ponding. There are some corners that perpetually have ponding so deep that you just cannot go through it safely with a wheelchair. And the only people who can manage those are people with high boots or really good jumping skills. And I would venture to say that most people who are walking in New York City do not have really good jumping skills. Also, the crosswalks, somebody mentioned that before, the period of time that crosswalks are repaired is a really long time. And it shouldn't be, because so many crosswalks are really marked up with potholes and just are so bad you could hardly cross. Oh, okay, let me just quickly cover the other ones. E-scooter regulation. There should be none on sidewalks. Regulated speeds on all e-scooters, rental or not. No parking scooters near an intersection or on a sidewalk. And also we want the DOT to eliminate their rule allowing parking at blocking ped ramps at T intersections. This is discriminatory to people with disabilities, and it's been in effect since around 2007 or 2008. And it is totally discriminatory to us because we cannot do mid-block crossings, and we need to. And the last two things I'll mention in my written testimony, Shore Road bus stops in Bay Ridge in New York are totally impassable and unable to be used by wheelchair users, and snow removals at intersections is a perennial problem, and the snowplow just keeps plowing the snow there and leaving it, and it becomes to be a big, huge ridge of ice that traps wheelchair users in our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Eddie. So thank you for your leadership, and I'm also believe that the leadership that your institution and many other advocates are so important, and that's why even the level of work that has been done in our city to make our intersection accessible is also the result of advocate group, not only legislation and legislators, and also many also other results of lawsuit. So I hope again that working with all the advocates, all the colleagues in government, we can be able again to make New York City a role model for the whole nation. I think that there's a lot of work that we have done, but there's many other that we have to do.
And I wonder, where are they going to put the snow with all the outdoor restaurants?
I know.
Well, you know, Minneapolis, okay, well, I have an idea. Minneapolis melts the snow. I'm from Minnesota originally. Minneapolis melts the snow. There's no place to put a whole lot of snow. We could have melters in every neighborhood that, you know, melt the snow so it just turns to water and goes down into the sewer. And you don't have to haul it away or shovel it to the curb because there's not going to be space this year.
We take your suggestion and we will follow up with you and the sanitation, and I promise you in DOT too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this panelist? Okay, before I turn it back over to the chair, I just wanted to check in if there is anyone else that we missed as far as public testimony, if you could use the Zoom raise hand function. Okay, seeing none, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Elias, and thank you all the staff in the other transportation committee, also my chief of staff, Elizabeth Conforme, my legislation staff, also Evelyn Collado and Tomas Garita communication. And you know, this conversation is so important to hear from DOT, to hear from the advocate, and with this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.